Info Corridor. This is Hajra Haroon, and today we are going to discuss the Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict. We are also going to talk about the lessons that we learned from the war and the implications for the region and Azerbaijan's strategic outlook and objectives. So, modern-day warfare is not only expensive, but it is also destructive. A state must have serious economic policies, a healthy defense budget, and a remote-controlled combat equipment in order to fight a war. So, to put it simply, Azerbaijan won. This was the main reason why Azerbaijan won the 45-day war. So, the use of weapons that was involved in the war were Bayraktar TB2, Turkish medium altitude long endurance unmanned aerial vehicle, and the Israeli Haroon TB drone. So these were the weapons that played an important role in swinging the war in Azerbaijan's favor. Now, ultimately, it was Azerbaijan's superior military that won the war and forced a deal on Armenia that saw them lose control over the cultural and historical capital of Shusha, alongside several parts of Karabakh and surrounding territories that had been under Armenian control since 1994. So joining us today is Mr. Rusif Huseynov. Mr. Rusif obtained his bachelor degree from the Baku State University and master degree from the University of Tartu. His main interests are socio-political developments, frozen conflicts, ethnic minorities in post-Soviet countries, while his focus areas mainly cover Eastern Europe, Middle East, Caucasus, and Central Asia. He's the co-founder and chairman of the Top Shubashov Center, which is a think tank, a center of research, a discussion platform dedicated to the multifarious issues. So, Mr. Risov, I would like to begin with the first question: that what were the factors that led to the recent war in Nagorno-Karabakh?
Hajra, thank you very much for your kind invite, and I'm very honored to be part of this program. Very timely and relevant topic you've raised today. Before going to discuss about the triggers that ultimately led to the recent hostilities in Nagorno-Karabakh, let me exhaust you a little bit about the historical background of the conflict and some geography as well. Nagorno-Karabakh is a mountainous region in the very heart of Azerbaijan. During the Soviet period, the region had an autonomy for the local Armenian community between 1920s until 1991. Toward the end of the Soviet Union, this Armenian community rose against the central government in Azerbaijan by demanding unification with their kin state, the Republic of Armenia. Then another constituent part of the USSR. Of course, the authorities in Baku rejected this ambition, which ultimately led to war in Nagorno-Karabakh. While the dying Soviet Union tried to somehow handle the problem, after the collapse of the empire, the intercommunal clashes quickly transformed into a full-fledged war between two newly independent states, Armenia and Azerbaijan. Unfortunately, the Armenian side occupied not only this mountainous territory, Nagorno-Karabakh, but also 7 surrounding provinces. Exhausted by the war, the belligerent parties decided to sign a ceasefire in 1994 and agreed to find a peaceful solution for this problem. An international mediating body called Minsk Group was also set up under the OACC, the Organization of Security and Cooperation in Europe. Over the years, since 1994, several solutions have been proposed and discussed, but none of them has ever been materialized. Now, coming to your very question, uh, in 2018, Armenia saw government change. Uh, According to the after the so-called Velvet Revolution, a new generation of politicians came to power in Armenia by toppling uh, the older, more bellicose, more hostile leadership. This change was tacitly welcomed in Azerbaijan, as both authorities in Baku and general society in Azerbaijan thought the new pro-Western leadership in Armenia could engage in Karabakh dialogue more constructively. However, um, both rhetoric and actions of the new authorities in Armenia um, became more bellicose and more nationalistic. So we were expecting some constructive approach, but what we received was uh, even more nationalistic attitude. Um, Over the next 2 years, we saw these hostile statements and even actions by the Armenian side. For instance, in 2019, Armenia's defense minister threatened Azerbaijan with what he called a new war for new territories. The Armenians held elections in Nagorno-Karabakh, which was and is the jure part of Azerbaijan, and elected a president for the puppet regimes they had installed there. And these elections took place amid the pandemic last year in spring. Then they organized an inauguration ceremony for that president in Shusha, the most important city in Nagorno-Karabakh and almost a sacred town for the Azerbaijanis. The dances of the Armenian leaders in Shusha and Karabakh were accepted as insult in Azerbaijan. And then Armenia's prime minister openly stated in a public ceremony that Karabakh is Armenia. So he was simply calling for unification of Karabakh and Armenia. Many in Azerbaijan felt insulted by these actions. The July clashes last year along the border, far from Nagorno-Karabakh, also triggered these pro-war sentiments in Azerbaijan, because those clashes resulted in the death of a dozen Azerbaijani servicemen, including a highly respected general. They sparked a public outreach and mass protests mid-July, again amid the pandemic, with 30,000 people gathering in central Baku, our capital, and demanding more decisive actions from the government. So when another provocation by the Armenian side happened in late September near Karabakh, Azerbaijan used it to launch a counteroffensive. And you know the rest.
Sir, so which strategic objectives did Azerbaijan achieve from this war?
Very good question. For the past 25 years, the Azerbaijani people had been victims of the syndrome of the defeated, as we call it here. It was finally broken as the Azerbaijani army uh, celebrated a glorious triumph of Armenia and liberated almost all the formerly occupied territories. Several provinces, especially most fortified and the most difficult ones to retake, were returned by Armenia after the 10th of November ceasefire. So we liberated a vast, a big strip of territory through operations. After the November ceasefire, we received several more provinces because Armenia was forced to cede those territories, and it helped us save thousands of lives. A small strip in Nagorno-Karabakh is currently under the Russian peacekeeping mission, which was deployed there in order to protect the remaining Armenian minority there. But as I said, we won the war. We managed to restore our territorial integrity, and the rest of the rest of Nagorno-Karabakh, which is under Russian protection, will hopefully be reintegrated into Azerbaijan soon or late. Another strategic objective was a deal about the so-called Zangezur corridor, which we can discuss later.
Mr. Rusif, we have seen that there were a lot of external factors involved in this war, the Nagorno-Karabakh war. So the actors like Turkey, US, and Russia. So what did they gain or lose from this war?
Well, if you ask any expert about the winners and losers of the Karabakh war, almost everyone would reaffirm that the key winners here, the obvious winners here, of course, apart from Azerbaijan, are Russia and Turkey. For many years, Azerbaijan had been the only country in our region, South Caucasus, without Russian presence. However, according to the ceasefire agreement, the Russians managed to deploy their peacekeeping troops on Azerbaijani soil. So this was their strategic win. Another important victor here is Turkey, who openly sided with Azerbaijan and achieved triumph in Karabakh together with Azerbaijan. So it should be no surprise that the Victory Day parade in December was almost a joint event of Azerbaijani and Turkish armed forces and attended by leaders of both countries. Turkey is also part of this monitoring mission in Nagorno-Karabakh. Ankara finally managed to penetrate militarily, not only politically, but also militarily, into a region which Russia traditionally considers its own backyard. Because Russia has been very sensitive and very jealous about any external actors in the post-Soviet space, but Turkey now is having firm political and military presence in Azerbaijan. Turkey is an obvious winner because the Karabakh war became a good advertisement for Turkish military products, especially high-tech equipment. I must emphasize the contribution of the Turkish-made unmanned aerial vehicles, which, according to many experts, became the game changers in the conflict. Today, Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev met with Selçuk Bayraktar, the inventor of these famed drones, and awarded him with a Medal of Karabakh. Amongst the losers, I mean the external powers, when we talk about external powers, amongst the losers are Iran and the European Union. Iran has been sidelined. It did not have any say before, during, and after the war. All the ceasefire and peace initiatives by Iran were ignored by the conflicting parties. No one took them seriously. The Western community, too, was only an observer during this process, both war and post-war processes. Plus their biased attitude. I mean, some of the Western countries' biased attitude toward Azerbaijan angered many people here, even liberal and pro-Western community. So the soft power and this positive image of the many Western countries used to have in Azerbaijan have also been affected. Saying that, I must also underline that many individual countries which did support Azerbaijan during the war, including Turkey, Pakistan, and some European countries such as Italy, Hungary, or Great Britain, seem to enjoy a more preferential policy in Azerbaijan, especially in Karabakh, because multi-billion reconstruction projects will soon be launched in that territory, because during the past 25 years, almost everything had been destructed in those areas. But towns, settlements had all been leveled. So we have to revive the entire territory, and it will require a lot of energy and resources.
Mr. Yusuf, realistically speaking, war is never a solution to a conflict, especially when the conflict is of political nature. So what do you think the war could have been avoided in this case, and how could the lasting peace be achieved?
Good question, Hajra. During the war and after the war, we discussed this very question over and over again, whether the war could have been avoided. Well, the Azerbaijani side patiently waited for 25 plus years, sincerely believing that the problem could be solved peacefully. So just imagine there is a big timeline between 1994, when the ceasefire was achieved after the First Karabakh War, and 2020. It's 26 years. So all these years, we invested a lot of hope and expectations in the peaceful and constructive and fair solution of the conflict. But now looking back, we can retrospectively analyze that the Armenian side and even some mediators were more interested in keeping status quo and protracting the conflict, because that situation served in their best interests. So many people in Azerbaijan believe it was impossible to solve the conflict without war, unfortunately. As for the second part of the question about lasting peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan, or in the region generally, there are several preconditions for that. Armenia should give up its territorial claims on Azerbaijan and should attempt to normalize the relations with both Azerbaijan and Turkey. Because this is a small, landlocked and mountainous country with no access to sea, and plus it's been in kind of a blockade from both east and west for the past two decades due to its hostile relations with both Azerbaijan and Turkey. Therefore, it's the Armenian side which should be interested in normalizing the relations, unblocking of communication lines, and investing resources in a lasting peace, because the military option demonstrated the superiority of Azerbaijan, which is bigger than Armenia in terms of territory, population, human resources, economic indicators, and so on.
Sir, I would like you to throw some light on the wider objectives of Azerbaijan in Caucasus and other areas. I mean, other than the dispute with Armenia.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the war in Karabakh and the post-war achievements of Azerbaijan have changed the geopolitical picture in the region, because we must now deal with new circumstances. We must now take into consideration new conditions. Well, I believe in the post-war situation, Azerbaijan will be more interested in connectivity projects, because I guess you and your audience will need maps to understand what I'm saying, because I will use several toponyms. Azerbaijan has an exclave called Nakhchivan, and between the mainland Azerbaijan, this exclave is Armenia. And now, after the war, when signing the ceasefire agreement, Azerbaijan and Armenia agreed to unblock transport and communication lines. So it is considered as a first step in normalization of the relations in peace attempts. Let's put it this way. And one of the most important transport lines could be the so-called Zengezur corridor between the mainland Azerbaijan and Nakhchivan, or mainland Azerbaijan and Turkey via Nakhchivan, because Azerbaijan has its borders with Turkey through that exclave. So I guess Azerbaijan will prioritize this corridor and will try to use it in many interconnectivity projects, because now there are a lot of discussions about north-south and east-west transportation corridors after the Karabakh war. Along with regional countries, many other external actors, European, Central Asian, even China, are now showing interest in these planned corridors, so-called Zengezur Pass. And some experts in Azerbaijan believe that this corridor, which offers a direct, a shorter alternative route between east and west, can be the main element, if not the main. It can be one of the main elements, if not the main, in the new order of South Caucasus, the so-called Pax Caucasia. So I think both Azerbaijan and Turkey and some external actors will invest a lot in this corridor, and it will directly and indirectly help us achieve some stability in the Caucasus.
Sir, my audience and I would like to know that what is the perception about Pakistan and Azerbaijan on the governmental level and also on the social level?
I penned an article back in November about pro-Pakistan sentiments in Azerbaijan, which were especially obvious during and in the immediate aftermath of the war. The unconditional support of the Pakistani state and people to Azerbaijan in the Nagorno-Karabakh issue sparked nationwide display of love and respect in Azerbaijan toward Pakistan. Pakistani flags, usually along with Azerbaijani and Turkish colors, became something routine in the city where I live. And you could see how Pakistani color, Parcham style Hilal, was hung from balconies, on facade of the buildings, painted on the walls, or placed inside houses and offices. Numerous private vehicles were decorated with Pakistani colors. Of course, in my text, I tried to convey these outbursts of positive emotions toward Pakistan, but my sentences, my text was not capable to convey the entire sentiments. You had to be here in Azerbaijan to perceive it. These obsession with Pakistan is nothing new. For the past 2 or 3 decades, many people in Azerbaijan would usually call both Turkey and Pakistan as the main brotherly countries and real allies for Azerbaijan.
Sir, so what is Pakistan's perceived role in the Azerbaijan's wider international agenda?
Well, let me reformulate your question with your permission, and to answer how I personally would like to see Azerbaijani-Pakistani relations in the near future. I was quite fortunate to meet with Pakistan's ambassador to Azerbaijan, Mr. Bilal Haye, a few days ago, and we had sincere conversation, interesting discussions. So the intergovernmental relations between Azerbaijan and Pakistan are very good. They are established institutionally, they are robust, but they cover mainly political and military dimensions. The societal perception of Pakistan is usually instinctive and emotional. But we must now add more substance and content into these fraternal relations and find new spheres for cooperation. This is what I said to Mr. Ambassador as well, because the trade turnover between Azerbaijan and Pakistan were slightly over 26 million US dollars in 2019. I do not consider 2020 because it was a year of anomalies. Okay, so 2019, the trade between Azerbaijan and Pakistan is just 26 million US dollars. It's a miserable figure, you can agree with me, given the potential of both countries to launch multi-billion projects, exports and imports. But we just need to find correct niches for us. After the pandemic, hopefully there will be a direct flight between Baku and Islamabad. As far as I learned, Azerbaijan's oil giant may enter Pakistani market very soon, but that's not enough. Pakistan should play a more active role in Azerbaijan, especially in the liberated areas. I said a few minutes ago, many friendly countries which did support Azerbaijan's just cause before, during, and after the war will enjoy preferential policies and concessions in Azerbaijan. Pakistan should take advantage of these too. It should be more assertive here in Azerbaijan. When I say assertive, I use it rather in a positive way. Pakistan's agricultural products, especially exotic fruits such as mango, as well as IT and chemical products, should be promoted in Azerbaijan and exported to my country. Because as I learned a few days ago, Pakistan's IT exports exceeded $1 billion US. It's not a big number for such a mighty country as Pakistan, but it is remarkable for Azerbaijan. In the liberated areas of Karabakh, the Azerbaijani authorities plan to develop the so-called smart cities and smart villages. So Pakistani IT companies can be very proactive in these initiatives. IT exports from Pakistan will be necessary. We Azerbaijanis should also find our own niche in Pakistan, the Pakistani market. We must study the domestic developments and trends in your country in order to see how we can invest in and contribute to Pakistani economy, because it will probably be mutually beneficial. I also proposed, Mr. Ambassador, to enhance Pakistan's soft power and positive image by using various channels, because as I said, we do love and respect Pakistan here in this country, but it's all in an emotional and instinctive level. But we should feel in these emotions with more content. Why not to promote the products of Lollywood here in Azerbaijan, and to use some other cultural products and enhance some dialogue to promote some cultural events and so on. Of course, I mean, after the pandemic and after the restrictions are lifted. So we have a lot to do. We have a lot to contribute to further development of our relations, and especially at societal level, because I really want the Azerbaijanis to know more about Pakistan and Pakistanis to learn more about Azerbaijan.
Mr. Yusuf, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your acumen with us. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for your invite once again.
Thank you, sir.